So Nisha, is that Nisha or Nisha? I have a cousin named Nisha. Nisha from Sacramento, Cordova, Tennessee. Tiffany from the Chicago area. Let's see. I see Sumter, South Carolina for Carl. And Mike E. Dallas. Michael. Oh, wait, so is that Michael Evans? Michael E. from Dallas. So Michael Evans from Dallas. All right. You know Dallas, that city that has that terrible football team that's been bad since 1998. I'm playing. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I'm really disgusted with that team. Just so you know, um, Paulette from Philadelphia, Judy from New York City. All right, great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is some of you left your questions in advance, so I'm going to actually answer the advanced questions first. I'm also going to finish up on that part of the lecture that I mentioned to you all that we would cover about the steps to kind of getting your business going and the things you need to do and things you need to know. And what I'm also going to do is make sure that I give you as much insight as I possibly can on some things you might want to know about your business as you get started. And these are the things that they don't really talk about in school. The little things that you won't find in a textbook. So give me 1 second here. Let me find your questions here. Okay. All right. So the questions that you left here already. All right. And so those of you who have a question, you can put it in the Q&A section. And those of you who don't, who just want to sit back and kick it and listen, you can listen. You can probably learn quite a bit from me answering everyone else's questions. So if you're ready, then I'm ready. Let's get it started. And by the way, I also want to mention this to you too. You all know that I'm not just a guy who's just here to teach the X's and O's of economics. Everything has to have a why. It has to be put into context for it to mean anything to me. So when I think about economics, I think about the world we live in and the politics of the world we live in. And we just had a transition in the White House, and that's a big deal. Everybody's talking about that. And I'm not here to tell you how you should feel about that at all. All I'm here to say is that I'm going to call it like it is. And in this country, you have a country that is growing in terms of inequality because it's very, very capitalist. And all this talk on Capitol Hill about democracy and helping the poor and making things equal and equality and helping the working class. Honestly, I think that's just a bunch of jibber jabber because if you sort of follow the money kind of drives everything. If you follow the money, you'll notice that the politicians are being funded by the corporations and by the wealthy. And wealth does not trickle down. Ronald Reagan taught us that. It took us 40 years to figure that out. But wealth does not trickle down because rich people didn't get rich by letting their money trickle down. They got rich by holding on to their money. So money tends to trickle up because poor people tend to spend more than rich people do because poor people have to spend more than rich people do. I mean, after you have your necessities, what happens is that once you have a lot of money, you don't have anything else you need to buy. So it's like, okay, well, let me just get an eighth car or a fourth house. That's kind of what rich people end up doing. And or they'll make investments with their money, whereas poor people are the ones who are buying the food and buying the clothes and buying the things that they need to get by. So they're really driving the economy. So I think it's very unfortunate that your economy is structured this way. But I'm here to kind of give you the real deal and to just say that I really encourage you to understand the importance of saving yourself. This is not a country that's built on economic equality. I don't care what anybody tells you. The goal of the politician, in my view, is to feed you enough hope to get you to believe that electing the right guy or the right woman is going to change everything. But when they go back in those back rooms and they're talking about who they're going to serve and who they're really going to work for and go to bat for, they're going to bat for the billionaires. They're going to bat for the corporations because the billionaires and the corporations got them elected. When it costs $2 billion, $3 billion to run for president, you can't get that. You don't typically get that much money from working class people. You get that money from the big donors. Okay, so I just want you to understand that, so that so you don't get caught on the same train of nonsense that so many other people are caught on. Your opportunities in America pretty much come down to the fact that there's nothing stopping you from investing in the stock market, which ties your wealth and your income to wealthy people. So everybody in here, I hope that every single person in this class, if you haven't started now, I hope that by the time you're done, you are a stock market investor. We are in the boot camp going to cover stocks. I promise you, we're not going to skip that. That's I wrote my dissertation on stocks. And so actually, my brother sent me a picture of when I finished my PhD. I'll show you all the pictures. It's kind of a cool thing. I hadn't seen this picture in a long time. But anyway, The other thing you want to do is you want to really think heavily about pathways to become a real estate owner, and that was one of the reasons I invited Julian Gordon in. Some of you are learning from him, directly in the Black REI group. Some of you are going to learn what you can until you're ready to make that transition. You don't have to go in that direction. There are a lot of ways for you to get what you need. I can also tell you my experience as a property owner. I have bought some property that Alicia and I rent under the name of an LLC, and basically you get an LLC when you buy property so that you can get limited liability protection, because if somebody gets hurt on your property, obviously that can cost you a lot of money. So you get limited liability protection to protect yourself financially. And I can tell you that one thing about property ownership, I'm not going to dwell on this story too much because I think I might have mentioned this to you, but we bought the most recent property, for about $111,000, and within 1 month, that property went up $40,000. It's kind of weird, but it did, and also the amount of money that we collect on the rent from the property exceeds the amount of the mortgage. So the person renting the property is actually paying the mortgage for us, but we own the property. That's the nature of capitalism, and so by being a stock owner, what happens is that when the billionaires and the corporations get rich, you get rich. Like, so for example, if you had owned Tesla stock earlier in the life cycle, and some of you did buy Tesla stock, because we've been talking about Tesla in class for quite a while. If you follow me, I've been bringing up Tesla. Then as Elon Musk's wealth was increasing, your wealth would have increased because the bulk of his wealth is actually tied up in Tesla stock. So by buying stock in companies like that, you're connected to these wealthy people and the money that they're making. Excuse me. And the last piece is the entrepreneurship piece. And entrepreneurship is more than just about the money. It's actually fun, and it's about the freedom. And so when you think about financial freedom, one of the biggest things you want to understand is that you don't have to have a lot of money to be financially free. Financial freedom is, in my view, it means you are free from a dependence on money. You don't need money in order to be whole and to be happy. Like you think about a drug addict. A drug addict does not get joy from the drug. The drug addict is avoiding the discomfort of not having the drug, right? Initially, the initial high, that's, I guess, pretty amazing, I guess. I don't mess with drugs or alcohol, but the initial high is pretty good. But eventually you renormalize and you get to the point where you're not engaging, you're not getting high anymore, really. You're really just numbing yourself and avoiding the discomfort of not having the drug. So money can be a little bit like that. So I'm not a fan of financial addictions. In fact, the more money you make, the more the hunger for money can grow, and you can find yourself financially addicted. So I think it's very important to be conscious of your relationship with money and to realize that there are plenty of people who are financially free who don't make a ton of money. They just have enough money to pay their bills and make their investments and keep their savings, and they're okay. Okay. So by the way, so that picture, just in case you want to see it, here's the picture when I got hooded for my doctor. I hadn't seen this picture in a while, and yeah, that was a big deal. Yeah, when I got my PhD. So in case you ever wanted to see that, there you go. All right. So here, let me grab your questions here. Okay. So first question is from Antonio Baker. He says, I'm in the Black Business School and there's things I don't understand. I try my best to learn as much as I can from you. I'm very excited to be in your class. I go through the videos and listen to everything, but I would like to know if you can give written examples on paper, like the PE ratio and how it works. Okay. I could look into that. That's a good idea. So yeah, maybe you went through some of the curriculum in the Black Stock Market program, and I tend to like to use slides, and which obviously all the slides are always available, and also talking through the slides. In terms of pen and paper, I got to figure out a way to share the screen, maybe get one of those digital screen things. So I'm going to ask Carmelita, who is the director of the school. I'm going to ask her to help me figure out a way to do that. So that's a good idea. Sade says, California LLC tax is $800 a year. I do not want to pay this fee. Is there a way to not pay this yearly fee, or how can I establish an LLC outside of California and still live in California? Well, I'm not an attorney or an accountant, but you can file an LLC in any state that you want. And California does not have a business-friendly environment. In fact, that's why a lot of companies are leaving California and going to places like Austin, Texas. And so I think the big question, though, is I've heard a lot of experts that will say that even though you think you're saving on taxes by filing in another state, most of the time you don't save that much money. So maybe what you could do is look at the state you're thinking about filing in. I know a lot of people, for example, file in Delaware, which I think that's shifted a little bit where it's not as advantageous as it used to be. But when you talk about trying to get around taxes, that's kind of a tough one because Uncle Sam he tries his best to make sure that you're going to pay your taxes. So you may want to look at other states and talk to your accountant and see or either your accountant or your lawyer or a tax professional to figure out what might make sense. I don't know if I'd incorporate in another state just to save a couple $100. Okay, so let's see. Francis, amazing school creates new users. Okay, on Webull, Robinhood, consider worthy bond. Okay, opportunity. If the Black Business School had its own accounts and gave out referral codes. Oh, I see. Okay, so you're saying give out referral codes for Webull and Robinhood. We thought about that, but honestly, I'd rather just tell you all about the apps and tell you what the pros and cons are. We don't do affiliate programs with any of these companies. We actually don't. We kind of like to be independent. We enjoy that actually because independence allows us to teach what we want to teach the way we want to teach it, and we are believers that the state of economics in the Black community requires very specific attention, which is why, from a political standpoint, I personally don't have much interest in listening to politicians who don't have specific solutions for the Black community, because I think that your economic situation is incredibly unique. It's like a very unique disease or a very unique virus. You can't just give that person an aspirin and say, oh, it's going to be okay now, or I'm going to give you the same treatment that we gave these other patients. No, it requires surgery. It requires somebody that's really going to sit and think about the problem. So with Black wealth, I've sat and thought about this problem quite a bit. From everything from what's in the textbooks to just the life of being Black. Everything. This is just little weird things that happen, like like you're. I hear about people whose mothers took out a utility bill in the baby's name, and or dealing with relatives that discourage you instinctually from starting a business. So to just a lot of other issues I've seen, the lack of access to capital, and what you have to do is you have to tweak the business model. So we do things in our own unique way, and our goal is to be really radical, because you can't solve a difficult problem without being radical most of the time, especially when it's a problem that's been sitting there for decades and nobody's been able to really address it. It's because they're afraid of being radical. But when you go through this boot camp, by the time you're done, you'll have the solutions you need. Like, you'll know exactly what the path is to ensure that your wealth isn't just equal to whites, but actually exceeds whites. And I hope I can get you to that point. I know that I can. Okay, so Kenneth, in the lecture with Julian Gordon, he was the third lecture for the boot camp. I'm very interested in his program. I looked for it this morning and it wasn't showing yet. Hopefully it will later. Yeah, Julian's program, the URL is theblackreigroup.com, theblackreigroup.com. If somebody could type that in, it's theblackreigroup.com. That stands for the Black Real Estate Investment Group. So if you go to, let me check the URL. If you go to theblackreigroup.com, you should see a landing page that has the program there. Let's see, I'm typing it in now. It's twirling and it's twirling. Maybe it's a little slow. Actually, let me check with you guys in the chat because I'm questioning my Wi-Fi now. Can you hear me okay? Are you all able to hear me? Give me a yes if you're able to hear me. Okay, you were in there today, Lavetra. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm looking at this URL. It did not come up for me. So let's try it again. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's something with the Wi-Fi. Let me. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to. Yes. It's. I guess sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm sorry about that. I don't know what the deal is with that. Let me find it, and I'll share the URL with you in case you're looking for it. I'm very surprised because it was working yesterday. Carmelita, are you in here? If you're in here, Carmelita, could you look into that for me? Okay, Carmelita says it is working. Okay. You know what? I don't think it's working for everybody, Carmelita. So maybe you can talk to the team about that because it is not working for me. So maybe if it's working for some of you, that's good, but it's not working for me. So if it's not working for me right now, then that tells me that we have an issue. So I don't want us to have issues like that. So if you could help us get that fixed, I'd appreciate that. And what I'm going to do is I'll share a direct link with everybody in here. If you want to go hit the direct link. Okay. Yeah, and also if you ever have any issues, we have a support team who reside at support@theblackbusinessschool.com. That's support@theblackbusinessschool.com. And I'm actually going to try to find the coupon code you can use to get the discount that Julian talked about. So give me a second here. Okay. Okay. So, all right. So next question. Let me see here. Okay. So hold on. Let's meditate in silence for a moment, shall we? Okay. All right. Yeah, Carmelita, if you could grab a discount code that matches what's on the page and put it in the chat, I'd appreciate it because I can't find the code to give everybody right now. But yeah, the blackreigroup.com is the URL. It should be working, so I don't know why it's not. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so next question is, what app do you use for options trading between TD Ameritrade or E-Trade? I already have TD Ameritrade account. You can use TD Ameritrade, Antoinette. But I use Robinhood or E-Trade, and they both they both have commissions and things like that for options trading. That's how Robinhood makes a lot of their money is through options trading. But you can do it. You can get it done on all those apps. If you're already into TD Ameritrade, you might just want to double down and get good at that one, and then that way you don't have to learn multiple apps. But if you guys get to the point where you have a significant amount of money invested, you may want to put the money on different apps. I don't put all my money on the same app because I don't trust. I don't trust these these tech people, and the fact that they could just make a mistake and next thing you know all your money's gone, and then next thing you know I'll be in jail because I have to go beat somebody up, and we don't want Boyce in jail, so Boyce has to put his money on different apps. All right, next question is from Robin McCall. I'm renting rooms in the house I live in. I'm living rent free. Is this similar to owning a multifamily home? Um, yeah, to some extent. If you consider the fact that you have multiple families in the same residence, then then that would technically be your definition, right? Um, and here's the deal, right? If you look at it from a general standpoint, what you're really trying to do when you talk about multifamily home investing and stuff like that is you're just trying to get to the point where you become a landlord, and that's the goal. Where you're able to get some sort of cash flow that represents a return on capital for something that you're letting someone else use. And that's how people make money in America and around the world, is in capitalism anyway. Now, with socialism and communism, it's a different model. It has its benefits and its consequences. But with capitalism, the most of the wealth tends to go to the owners of capital. And the thing about America is that America is not a purely capitalist country. It doesn't have to be. Because if you look up the definition of capitalism, it pretty much says that the difference between capitalism and communism or socialism, it comes down to the ownership of means of production. So if there's land and money's being made off the land, well, the big question is who owns the land? That tells you a lot of what you need to know about the difference between capitalism and socialism. Now, here's the thing. When you talk about owning land or owning shares of stock or whatever, there is no law saying that you can't own land too. There's no law saying you can't own shares of stock. Um, there's no sort of clear dividing line legally that says, you're either a worker or an owner of capital. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to be both. I don't care if you work down at UPS or whatever, you can go and get on your app and buy stock in UPS and become an owner of that means of production, just like anybody else. So the point that's being made in all of this in terms of how the economy is structured is that the right thing to do in America would be to have politicians that have the political will to protect workers' rights and allow them to do things like form labor unions so that they can pull all their capital together. Their capital is what they call human capital. Labor can be capitalized, and you can generate cash flow from labor, right? But the problem that you have is it's like it's like a it's like if you take this case and my hand is fighting against this case. If my hand is like, if each finger is hitting this case, then I'm gonna break each finger. But if I make a fist and I pull the fingers together in one unified strategy, I can crush this case. You follow me? And so the people that own capital, there's fewer of them. So they're like this case, whereas the workers are like the fingers on this fist. So if all the workers are that's why labor unions are so dangerous to the capitalists or the people that own capital, is because they know that when they come together, they form a fist, and then you have a fair fight. But as long as they keep them separate, then they can take on one finger at a time, because each finger that tries to hit it is going to break. And so and that problem became apparent when, for example, in the NBA, when the NBA had a lockout, when the owners decided to basically go on strike and lock the players out of the NBA back in the 1990s. Kevin Garnett had signed this massive $120 million contract, and all the owners were like, "Ooh, we don't want to pay that much to our players." So the owners did a strike. The owners said, we're locking you out. We don't want to do business with you. So what happened was, throughout the entire negotiation, you had hundreds of NBA players. I don't know how many players there are. I'm going to guess maybe there's 300 of them or so, going against maybe at the time, maybe 25 team owners. So what happened was, David Stern, he understood this analogy that I just gave you. You had the owners and the players, right? And the players are all over the place. Their interests are divided. You had the highest paid guys like the Michael Jordans, all the way down to the guy who just got in the NBA, who's just happy to get a job because he's sitting at the end of the bench. And then you had the owners, where David Stern pretty much told, he was a commissioner at the time, he told the owners, you must be unified at all times. Every vote, you must have a unanimous vote. You cannot have a vote that is not unanimous. And the players couldn't be unanimous because there were too many of them. So what happened was, the owners kicked the players' butts, because the owners were able to maintain a unified strategy and pull their capital together and get things done. That's another reason why China is going to be stronger than the United States, because China doesn't do things like democracy and let everybody have a say, or multiple political parties and all that. They have one party, and the government tells everybody what to do, and they always go in one direction, right? So that unity has its benefits. Like when you think about your family, that might be a good structure for your family, to have some sort of unity or anonymity, or not yet, so that you're able to sort of pick the same strategy to move forward. I say anonymity, but maybe it's not anonymity. No, anonymity will be anonymous. Uniformity. Yeah, uniformity is a word, not anonymity. Anonymity means you don't know who they are. That wouldn't make any sense. All right. So Rachel says, "Hey, Dr. Boyce, I forgot to mention I live in Canada, so please keep that in mind when answering my last two questions." I'm sorry, Rachel. You know what? I don't even know what your questions were. Let me see. Maybe Rachel's question is going to pop up next, because I don't remember answering a question from a Rachel today. Okay, let's see. There's Rachel. She says, "What do you think about currency trading on the Forex market? According to my research, it's a $5 trillion market, much bigger than the stock market. It seems like it'd be a good market to trade on. The Forex market is a lot of fun. That's what it is. It's not a great place to make money, in my view, because the Forex market is a tough market, because I could explain to a 4-year-old how to make money on the stock market in about 30 seconds. Like, I really could do that. There've been experiments where they had monkeys that invested in the stock market, and the monkeys were able to make money. So really, to make money in the stock market, all you have to do is be smarter than a monkey. Everybody in here is smarter than a monkey. Now, if you want to be dumber than a monkey, which is a lot of work, then don't invest in the stock market. Like, keep your money out of the stock market. Now, I'm not calling you dumb, but that's the only way that you're going to make less money than the monkeys will make, because the stock market runs on, there's a theory that won a Nobel Prize called the efficient markets hypothesis, which basically is, how they say God protects babies and fools. Well, it's kind of like the economic gods protect the uninformed investors with this theory, which pretty much states that you're going to get what you pay for. It says that, all the information about whether or not a stock is a good or a bad pick, that you're kind of wasting your time trying to discern that on your own, because you got thousands of analysts who've already done that for you. So if you go buy a $50 stock that used to be $55, it's not that the stock has it's not that you're getting this magical bargain. It's because something has happened, some information has been released that reduced the value of that stock, so you're usually going to get what you pay for. So a good way to look at it might be, if I go to the store and I don't know anything about radios, but I'm looking to get a good radio for my daughter for her birthday. Well, if there's two radios made by the same company sitting on the shelf right next to each other, and one radio is $80 and the other one is $110, I would be stupid to think that the $110 radio is identical, that or of lower quality than the $80 radio. Why would I think that? Hundreds of people have already walked past these two radios. They're both there. If the $110 radio was not as good as the $80 radio, then there will be no $80 radios. There will only be $110 radios, because people aren't stupid, right? What I would do instinctively is I would say, okay, there's got to be a reason these two have different prices. So I might ask the clerk, why is this one $110 and this one's only $80? And what he's probably going to say is, well, because this one has the extra bass and this one also has the digital surround sound or whatever, right? So stocks are kind of the same way. And so what that basically says is that if you want to get started investing now, if you're not already doing it, I think you should invest on autopilot. Do three things. One, make sure you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Two, whatever you buy, try to hold it for a while. Three, do something on autopilot, some sort of direct, consistent investing every week. And what that'll do is that will allow you to build money over time. The $5 a day investing plan, I don't know if I put that actually in the bootcamp curriculum, but it's okay if you go to give me a second, theallblackagenda.com, theallblackagenda.com. You can find the $5